Okay, I'm walking you into our temple room. This is our house in the front.
You have something in the screen.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
What a beautiful and sweet program.
Now it says the meeting is being recorded and I say, got it. Oh, there we go. Okay. And set up
Now she can
professional
see us.
audio.
But why are we so big?
I don't know why
Can
we're.
you see us in full?
Because I'm spotlighting you for everybody.
Oh, okay. Sit with me, my darling. My husband.
Well, where?
Right here. Come on, we're in this back room where it's quiet, so we hope it's okay. Hare Krishna. My obeisances, all glory to Srila Gurudev.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Haribo. Hare Krishna Bhakti. So
I will introduce you if that's okay.
please.
So tonight we are honored to have special guests, Her Grace Nandini Das and Kartikeya Das, who will discuss the power of Krishna Prasadam. Nandini Dasi and her husband Kartikeya Das have been instrumental in the development of Kala Chanji's, Iskon Dallas's award-winning vegetarian restaurant, as well as devotee restaurants in Puerto Rico and Denver, Colorado. They are disciples of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj. They will share their experiences, realizations, and perhaps a few recipes. Welcome.
Hare Krishna. Jai, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Sarva,
Yes,
go
can you hear
ahead.
me?
Yes, dear, we can hear you. I'm purified just seeing you.
Devotees come to Krishna consciousness in different ways. Just about every devotee got a book, but every devotee got prasadam also, and it's very important, very powerful. In our philosophy, in the Bhagavatam, Narada Muni took prasadam. I don't know if you can see this picture. I'll try to show it.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh,
Yeah, Hansa Duda in Dallas drew this picture. It's of Narada Muni as a young boy. He and his mother were serving the Bhakti Vedantas, and he got the remnants of their prasadam. And so it's in our philosophy. And of course, Srila Prabhupada is so dear to all of us for his service of going to New York and cooking prasadam and serving it and even washing the pots.
yeah.
And when I think of you and your husband, I can't not think of prasadam because
Yeah.
you've been quite involved, and I'd like to hear first how you both became devotees and how you got into serving Prasadam so wonderfully.
Okay. Well, I'll begin and then Kartikeya will
Okay.
pick up, but literally, Kartikeya and I had business in those early years, in the early 80s, and we both traveled in two different directions. He came back with the Happening album, and I came back with the Bhagavad Gita. And when I opened that Bhagavad Gita, I could not understand one word. So I closed it and put it on my shelf. Sometime after, somebody knocked on our door in North Dallas with his wife. I opened the door and he said, I have some paintings to show you. And he spread out these paintings that we all did Sankirtan with, books and paintings to build this Kalachandji's restaurant and finish the temple. So I thought they were the worst things I've ever saw, Sarva, in my life. But I said, no, I have no interest. We had a company at that time called International Expressions. But then he rolled out these silk Peshwa paintings with Krishna Leela and the gopis, and my heart melted. And I said, oh my, we can do something with this. So as things ensued, we did business together. And he invited us to the temple for the first time, right,
In
Kartikeya?
Janmashtami.
It was,
Janmashtami of 1981, I believe.
yes.
Who was that devotee? Do you remember?
Well, his name was Bhakta Steve. He had many aliases. He lived right across the street in the old house that now is Indranila's home.
Hmm.
It was a kind of a, the temple in those days was pretty run down, but nonetheless, we went on Janmashtami and he left his body some time ago, but he made all arrangements for us to meet our beloved spiritual master, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who we walked into his office. He was effulgent, and ultimately, in his excellent way, he said, why don't you all move into the community? And he said, if you don't like it, you can always move out. So
we live in North Dallas in a 2-floor building with the second floor furniture, more than that we needed really. And Gurudev is saying, yeah, just move, if it doesn't work out, you move out. So we're not coming with backpacks. So anyway, finally, it was hard. Nobody could say no to our Guru Maharaj. He got that Shakti to just break your, win always the arm wrestling. And so we came, and so we rented like, I don't know, it's a 28-foot U-Haul and put all our furniture in it and moved into the house where Mathuranath lives today.
Wow.
Right here in the Dallas
and
community.
what this community was like. The devotees were stunned. But after a month living there, I gave all the stuff to my sister in North Dallas. At any rate, Sarva, it was in 1982, I think.
That what?
And Gurudev was giving a Bhagavatam class because the restaurant was built by, Pashupati and Jai Gopal and a group of devotees. Jai Baladev, Yashoda.
We were out
Yasomati Nandan.
raising money, selling these paintings.
Yes.
To finish
the restaurant.
To finish the temple
And the restaurant.
and then start building the restaurant. So there was a great crew, very committed devotees on the construction side of it. And then we were going out. I'm sure Sarvabhauma, you and I went out at some point together in a van doing Sankirtan.
So.
Yeah.
I remember those days.
So a couple of things that come to mind when we first moved there into Mathuranath's house. Rohini, she was married to Dharmaraj, I believe.
Yeah.
She was cooking in the Didi kitchen, and every day, Sarva, she would bring to me this most amazing shrikand. It was explosive. It just melted my heart and definitely fixed my heart in Prasadam. And she was just every day she'd bring a different flavor. So in 82, I was sitting in a Bhagavatam class, and I was Bhakti Nancy still, and he said, so now, I mean, Bhakti Nancy is going to be the manager of Kalachandjis. And I think my jaw dropped. He just sprung that in Bhagavatam class. And in those days, to be the manager of the restaurant was to do everything. Make sure that the floors were clean and nicely presented when people walked in, everything. So it was.
Anyway, let me add this. So Kalachandji opened, right? Kalachandji opened, and during those times, this Dallas community was run down. This area where the temple is, and then there were cars chasing each other, shooting guns and things to each other.
It was a crazy time in this.
So it was kind of crazy, but anyway, they have the vision of opening Kalachandjis in this neighborhood, and so Nandini was the manager, Sunanda was the cook. And at those days, Kalachandji was not a buffet style, was a la carte.
Can you say something about Sunanda?
Yes.
Sunanda Prabhu was just a master. He's Prabhupada disciple. He was on Radha Damodar, just an amazing chef. And the plates were, flowers and roses. It was just spectacular.
Yeah,
it was
pieces
so
of art. I mean, he would top everything with a tomato that he cut it, and the way it opened up, it looked like a rose right on top of the plate.
Yeah.
It was just, Nandini had the waitress on beautiful saris with
gopi dots and
bindis.
flowers in their hair. It was a whole cultural experience.
And at the same time, the restaurant Nandini and Krishna Shakti, wonderful devotee at age that was instrumental also in helping financially with Kalachandjis, and also she was a very, very famous hairdresser here in Dallas. And she had a big, expensive, and she got a big following, and she started to promote the restaurant with her contacts, and her and Nandini teamed out, and they created this public relation and the publicity and everything that within very quickly, within a couple of months maybe, it's far, I can't remember exactly, but all of a sudden in this dreadful neighborhood, there were cars lined up on both sides of the streets, and there were Cadillacs, Rolls Royce,
Mercedes.
Jaguars,
It was unbelievable.
Mercedes, and it was an hour and a half wait to get a table.
Kartikeya was the maitre d',
so
with his beautiful accent and his charm, he would greet people beautifully and bring them into the restaurant. We had a mascot in the front that he had a turban, and he was, the Gurudev had it all orchestrated so beautifully. And then Sunanda once, he made this halava, blueberry halava with fresh blueberries around, and he said, Nandini, you take it to Dallas Morning News, which is no longer, a publication now, but so I took it there. I met with the people. I'm sorry, it was the Times Herald. It was the Dallas Times Herald. And they printed a picture with this halava, and they said, go to Kalachandji's for a halava time. So we did a lot of PR in those days, and it was just a glorious time. Mahatma Prabhu used to sing with Indranila. Sometimes I would join in, and Chandravali up in the gazebo. And he would play this, beautiful music. And what was most amazing, Sarva, is that when people first came in, they didn't realize they were coming into a Hare Krishna temple with, Gurudev was expert. He wouldn't have the brahmacharis and the people chanting up and down the hallway. That was finished when the restaurant opened. But people would come in and they'd be apprehensive. But once they had this prasadam, and I would serve them and greet them, my husband, their heart, you could watch them transform literally from prasadam and the whole experience of the restaurant in those days. It was very beautiful.
And all kinds of people were coming, some very conservative people, right?
Absolutely. Conservative people were coming, without a doubt. And
lawyers from downtown.
and they were just, it was just an amazing time, a window in time. And Srila Gurudev had this vision. And fast forwarding, when our beloved spiritual master left.
Well, before you go into that, what happened is that, so we got our, Nandini and I, we met many years before we became devotees. So we've been together and married for 48 years, okay? And
I'm a saint. No, it's easy. We have a beautiful relationship.
So anyway, when we first met, we were in our 20s, and we work in restaurants. So we have restaurant experience a little bit. And then in terms of prasadam and devotional restaurateur kind of a thing, we broke our teeth with Kalachanji, right? So anyway, those days I was involved in an import-export business, and I was traveling all over the world. So Nandini was staying back, working at Kalachanji's, and my service really was to support as much as I could financially Gurudev's project, so whatever he needed. So anyway, so I was coming and going, and talking to him, and so one time he said to me, he gave me two instructions. And one time he said, if ever you are at a crossroads, or you don't know what way to go, you and Nandini, open up a restaurant, distribute Prasada, okay? And so he said that at the moment where we're not even thinking about it. And then another time, we were talking with him, and he told me, I said, Kartikeya, you're doing the right thing. You are, giving in charity to support the temple and the brahmanas. And he said, I said, that's good. But what's happening is that in Kali Yuga, there is not enough wealth to give in charity. It's not like, in those days, the sacrifices and everything that came with it. He says, so if you want to give in charity, distribute prasadam. The way to give in charity in Kali Yuga is to distribute prasadam. And so now you can pick it up from there, because we were in Puerto Rico in 2002.
By his mercy. He blessed us to go to Puerto Rico, and then Leela called. I was up in the mountains in our mountain home, and told us Gurudev had left, and I was devastated, naturally, as all of us were. You were in India at that time, Sarva. I remember. Weren't you in India at that time?
When Srila Gurudev passed away,
Huh?
I was in the house in England waiting for him to come back.
Right. So in that moment, we started looking at all the emails and remembering what he said.
No, it was not so many. It was some emails, but a lot of letters.
A lot of letters, I'm sorry, lots of letters. And anyway, we found a location.
Well, wait a
And-
minute. So we asked ourselves, we are in Puerto Rico. We don't have any God brothers and God sisters there. I mean, wonderful devotees. I'm not complaining, but what we're going to do? How are we going to keep the connection with they? What And so we thought and discussed it, and we said we got to open up a restaurant. He wants us to distribute Prasada.
Yes.
So we got to open up a restaurant. So we start looking for a building, and we're able to get into this restaurant.
We remodeled the whole place. It was just a beautiful offering.
And yeah, and so we opened the restaurant, and we named it Tamal Krishna's Veggie Garden.
Veggie Garden Cafe.
Yeah.
And we started we started with a buffet and different a la carte things, Sarva. But what was again, what was so profound is that the reaction of the people was just amazing. And after some time, I opened up what I call the Cosmic Pizza and Pasta Night. And I named the different pieces. One was Jai Ram, after my son, and one was Keshava's Delight. But the special one was called Tamal Krishna's Supreme. And I'll never forget the day a client came in to, order a pizza at the front. And she said, I love that Tamal Krishna Supreme. I just love that Tamal Krishna Supreme. I love that Tamal Krishna Supreme. 3 times she said this. And during this time, we had many beautiful souls come, and you could tell. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll share this. At one point, the top newspaper in Puerto Rico, they have a magazine that they put out on Sundays, and they wanted to have an interview with Nandini, and so they published the article in there.
It's all Spanish.
Yeah, but you can maybe show the picture.
Okay, I will find it.
So anyway, so I'm gonna read what she wrote.
This is the picture that they posted.
Nandini, Keshava.
That was our team.
And
Beautiful color photo.
Yes, everyone had beautiful aprons on that said Veggie Garden Cafe.
Anyway, so this is what she wrote. They said the name of the article was Food with a Special Touch. And she said, because the food served in Veggie Garden has been prepared as part of a spiritual love meditation process, so the food is permeated with all of those positive vibrations, and therefore the flavors as well as the nutritional value will manifest prodigiously. And then she wrote this about Nandini. This was explained by the chef, Nandini, and owner of the little place, where we could identify well-known lawyers, business, and advertising people among the clients on that Friday. Nandini, her spiritual name in Sanskrit, that in English means one who gives pleasure to the Lord, was busy welcoming clients at each table, who were in love with her soft voice in between smiles and hugs. And it seems that her energy is contagious because all the people working there are impregnated with her kindness. So, I mean, that was the atmosphere of the place. And that, as she said, is because it was done with a special touch, and the special touch was the offering.
I
making
had
into
an
Prasada.
altar there, and I would offer everything.
And these people in Puerto Rico, there was not many vegetarian restaurants in Puerto Rico at all. maybe one or two, I can remember.
Very far.
And but people will come and they will say, "Oh, I didn't." It's amazing. I'm not a vegetarian, but I didn't miss my meat or this or that or the other. And so anyway, it was we ran this restaurant from. I had another business that was running in Puerto Rico. So Nandini was at the restaurant. She was a chef, magnificent. It was the Prasada what made the whole thing happen. And I was running also the business side of the restaurant. I don't know why I say that.
Well, one thing I wanted to say was two things. Mahatma
yeah.
came. After we
yeah.
opened, we did a grand opening, and I had all kinds of hot buffets outside. It was outside the restaurant. Mahatma and this other devotee from England were chanting like a salsa beat, and so many clients were out there dancing salsa, and
Chanting
they were
Hare
chanting
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It was very beautiful. And another beautiful thing happened was Indradumna Maharaj came to visit, and we did a program. I had a Bristow tables with little lights in the back of the restaurant. And Kartikeya, you can tell that little sneaky
Well,
Prasadam
anyway,
story.
I was when I was next to him because I was translating his talk to about 45, 50 people that we got there, and so I was translating and so anyway, we brought some prasadam. We brought some prasadam to him, and he took it, and then he was answering, questions and answers. So there was some prasadam left on his plate, and I really wanted to take some of those remnants, So anyway, he was talking. I said, "Oh, a plane went by. It's Maharaj. What's that? Look!" And he looked up. I said, reaching to the plate and stole a piece of pizza that he had
Prasadam.
and but anyway, the whole thing in that experience, and we can talk also about the one in Denver. Yeah, we ran the restaurant from 2002 until 2011, and the transformation of the people, because no people keep coming all the time, but there was a core that they just got hooked in, and they kept coming and coming and coming, and over the years you can see the potency of prasadam. You can see what prasadam.
There was a large convention center there that the natural awakenings people that were dear friends of ours organized, and they always had just a Nathan's hot dog stand, and they wouldn't let anyone into the whole convention center, but somehow they got us in, and we set up a buffet, an amazing buffet,
20 foot long.
20 foot long, and we were also making organic wraps. It was just samosas. It was just like a very special time there. It was spectacular.
It was a 3-day thing. I mean, thousands of people. The line, we had to bring 2 more registers the next day because it was too slow, and the lines were unbelievable, and
really special.
So thousands of people got prasadam there. And we were feeling ecstatic because the reciprocation that Krishna gave us through these people,
you could see the magic and the potency of prasadam.
I mean, it was just it softened their heart, it softened our hearts. We established very close relationships with many of them. And we also, in the basement, we had a little preaching center. So
first I had a gift shop, a Govinda's gift shop. And I was running the restaurant, and I had a Govinda's gift shop down there. And at that one point, I said, this is like too much for me. I can't do it all. And we transformed it into a little preaching center. So I would cook up prasadam every Friday, we do a program there. And I cook and I go down and give a Bhagavad Gita class. And because he was with his business, it was very, very beautiful, really beautiful.
The
Very beautiful.
yeah.
time.
So what was I going to say? Yeah. Anyway, so we ran it until 2011. That's the year that we came back to the States. And
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, please.
I
please.
just wanted to, it seems like cooking prasadam, running a restaurant, interacting with the customers is such a labor intensive process. I can only think it because you love to do it.
Right. Yeah.
I can only think that's why you could do such a, it's very intense.
It's very intense. The
Really?
restaurant seva is a lot of work, a lot of hours, a lot of lifting heavy pots, but somehow or another, we were so ecstatic. So many, so many amazing
Wow.
personalities came. So many. The reciprocation from everyone was just
and I really think,
catering. We did a lot of catering
Yeah.
events there.
but I really think that all boils down, the way we felt. It was all Gurudeva's mercy.
It was
okay,
Gurudeva's mercy.
and we were living in his instruction.
We
okay?
felt empowered by him, really.
Right.
It's
I
like-
mean, we were so satisfied because we were living in his instruction. So we got that connection. And so from there and everything else, that's the flower that opened up. It's his mercy coming through like that. And we follow the instruction. And so Krishna and Guru and Krishna just open up people's hearts and minds, because there was a lot, we did preaching, they were buying books, and there was a lot of questions and answers. They would sit at the table with us, and they will be wanting to know more.
Tell me about Krishna.
Mhm. So go
I'm
ahead.
sure many people in Dallas became devotees from the restaurant also.
Oh,
Right?
they
Yeah,
did,
yeah,
many.
yeah,
It was just
yeah,
a really amazing thing. I mean, during the Christmas marathon in later years, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, who is, a Prabhupada disciple, and then he took second from Srila Gurudev, took a lot of shelter from Gurudev, and his wife, Neela Madhava, during the Christmas marathon, he ran that restaurant for several years. And during the Christmas marathon, she would distribute books at the table, and people were so enlivened to take books in those days,
Yeah. But also if anybody looks into the subject, Srila Prabhupada also was very, very much into prasadam distribution. I mean, we know books is what it was, right? But he said prasadam is like second to the books. It's right there. A lot of people don't want philosophy, but they will take prasadam.
No one could turn down halava and samosas.
And prasadam will act. And we've seen it. My Shraddha has increased in everything because we hear all the wonderful qualities of prasadam and what it can do and the purifying effect. And we were able to live that and see it happening around us. And so that continues our motivation to keep doing it. So at the end, in 2011, we did an arrangement with some devotees and the temple, and we transferred the restaurant to the temple.
And now they call it Govinda's Garden Cafe, and it is still going on. It's still going on. And really.
And
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
So
they still
special.
have the preaching center
Downstairs.
And so
Actually, His Holiness Guru Prasad Swami showed us a video a while back. He said, Nandini, you'll be enlivened to see this. And he panned the room downstairs with the deities. I had 2 sets of Gaurnitai deities, so I left them one big set. I had let Mahatma use those same deities when he was preaching in Austin years before. And there were those deities there with the crowns and all the outfits I gave them. And he panned the room and all the devotees were there, beautiful program going on. It was like, I wept. I felt so happy, Sarva. I felt very, very happy to see that, you know, what little we did is still going on to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the spider, right? Putting a grain of
Grain
of sand somewhere. You
for
know? And then so we came to Denver because our when we moved back in, both of our boys were living in Denver, and Jaram said, come, we're going to give you grandchildren. Translation, we need babysitters.
But anyway, we opened this restaurant. It was aside from the temple, and there was a separate entrance to the restaurant. And we had, we remodeled and repainted the entire temple, which really needed it. We had this amazing graphic. I have pictures, I just don't know how to share them. But that was a very austere, because the restaurant was upstairs, and down a long flight of stairs was where the kitchen was. So we would have to bring everything up and down the stairs. I was sharing an 8-burner stove. We had 4 burners and 1 candy stove, and the brahmacharis had the other. And so it was, every time I would go in there, I'd say, okay, I can't cook until I clean everything. But it was a very, oh my gosh, that was just like another amazing experience. And we used to make 100 samosas at a time, and we would cook them fresh to give people fresh hot samosas with a tamarind chutney and a basket of pakoras that were fresh and hot. And
we had a wonderful buffet. Everything was organic and everything. And then we went, and then we had like 6 preparations in the buffet, plus an entree. An entree we offer, let's say it was lasagna, so we offer a dairy lasagna and a vegan lasagna. Until
the day I went completely vegan. And when we decided to go totally vegan, our business increased, what? 30%. When we said we're going to just do vegan.
See,
at that point,
for the vegan people, it is.
I got some fiery emails. Why are you serving, milk? They were heavy. They were very heavy. Don't you see how the cows were abused when they milk them? Even it was so heavy. But at any rate, I'm not trying to push anything on anyone, but we chose to do this there, and it was remarkable how our business increased. And the reviews, Sarva, the reviews were just off the charts that people gave. They gave reviews on so many platforms in those days, and it was amazing. We had a beautiful mural. I wish I could, I don't know how to upload these pictures or share these pictures, but at any rate, we had an amazing mural on the front. A friend had painted with a peacock and doves and hearts, and it was just spectacular. It was turquoise. It was just so beautiful. And people would say, okay, I want to take a picture in front of your restaurant. And we'd have to go out there and take pictures of them. So
it was another wonderful experience.
People would come in and they'd get a big hug from us, and they would say, oh my gosh, you made my week. I was so stressed. And I come in here and this mystical Krishna music is playing, and we're embraced by, we give them a big hug. And then, so. And
again, with all these, I don't know how many pages are here, a lot. And these were all kinds of 5-star reviews that we got on Yelp. Govinda's Denver won the award of the year for the top 3 best vegetarian restaurants in Denver, which is a market, it's a market that attracts vegetarians, vegans, and they know. Some of the people here are saying I've been a vegetarian for so many years, and I came here, and this is like, a cut above. And again, we created a really nice, welcome, warm, affectionate atmosphere.
And right behind the register, I had a picture of Srila Gurudev there. And behind the buffet, I had a spectacular picture. I saw it at the Sadhu Sangha, and this devotee sent it to me on, I don't know, some platform. But I have this beautiful, big, giant mural of panoramic of Vrindavan.
What was the
Keshigat.
Keshigat,
Oh my God.
right in the
With all the devotees there. It was spectacular.
So people were feeling that they were, and again, I can't read, but I don't know if you want me to do that. I can read a few of those, but people were saying that, coming into this place, our consciousness is affected. It's different. It's peaceful. It's,
They gave reviews. We could taste the love and the food, we
yeah,
would
but
offer
it was a
it.
Krishna conscious thing. You're cooking, which is really, Nandini can cook. Okay, again, Gurudev's medicine power around
Very
that.
nice.
And I mean, I tell you, there were people. I was on the floor all the time, walking around, seeing people and all that. And sometimes I go by a table, and the guy is sitting, he's just putting the fork in his mouth, going like this. I mean, was like, and I know that, it's Prasadam, that's cooked by Nandini with the mercy of our Guru Maharaj.
Can I ask you something? Were you sort of indirect in relating to Krishna consciousness, like not wanting to be too pushy with the philosophy of Krishna consciousness?
Right.
And that seemed like a delicate balance, because sometimes the devotees could go too far in either direction. Seems like. Can you comment on that?
Yes. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Rasa's music. She's Prabhupada disciple, and her music is all different unlimited bhajans, so mystical and so beautiful. That was the music we played. And people would walk in and they would just swoon. They'd just say, wow, the sitar. It was just very, very beautiful. And we never proselytized, but sometimes people would ask us to sit down. And I remember this woman with her son. He was maybe a 12-year-old boy. And this happened many times, Sarva. And she said, he wants to know about Krishna. Can you tell us a little bit about Krishna and what all this is? So we just created a very, beautiful spiritual energy in the place that permeated the place. The prasadam was special. I would make these beautiful vegan cakes. And I used to make these big giant gluten-free cookies, because then people said they wanted gluten-free and vegan. So I'd make these giant cookies. And that's the way we chose to do it. We chose to create a very warm and spiritual environment, Sarva, that, if someone asked more, we would give more. And I remember it was on Gaur Purnima, a whole family said, we'd like to come to the temple program. And the whole family from the restaurant came with their children. A couple of people from the restaurant came. And then they were so moved by the chanting and the whole program in the temple. So
the restaurant had a patio, and next to the patio was the temple room. Okay, so they can hear the kirtans.
Yes, even we had our music.
They will open the window and peek,
Yes.
And so they wanted to go. Can we go in there? Yeah. So we will take them. And show them the temple and explain what was going on and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, prasadam is, you know, it purifies, you know, just like when you put iron in a fire and takes the characteristics of the fire, you know, with
It acts, it
prasadam
transforms.
is able to do the same thing.
And also the, the prasadam and the mood that
Yeah.
you embrace everyone with a lot of warmth and affection and kindness. They felt that. Mm.
Yeah, because like anything else, Sarva, I mean, in Krishna conscious, you know, we got to follow the principles, we got to chant our rounds, we got to read, we got to do some service, so many different things. And the, if you one of them you don't do right, you know, the program doesn't work, doesn't give you the maximum benefit. Okay. And so just like when you're making a cake, you know, if you put too much flour, you ruin it. If you put salt instead of sugar, or if it's in the oven for more than it's supposed to be, the cake doesn't work. So the whole presentation, you have prasadam, is the secret weapon, but then you create a whole thing around it, because after all, that all created love, and love is prasadam, isn't it? It's mercy.
And love is what our philosophy is. I mean, Radhanath Swami says it over and over again.
Well, Radharani is the queen of the kitchen, so
Queen of the
you know
kitchen.
it's very part of our philosophy, important.
Can I share a prasadam story with you?
Yeah, why don't you share a story, and then maybe we can have, if there any other devotees are.
I'm just going to share this one story because I just read it on Giriraj Maharaj's page, and you may be familiar with this story, but some people may not. And this was a class that Shruta Kirti Prabhu was speaking on in LA in 1975. And he was on the plane with Srila Prabhupada, and he brought some chidwa in a little tinfoil. And as soon as the plane got off, Prabhupada would always take some of this chidwa. And then he passed it back to Shruta Kirti, who shared it with this other devotee that was there. And they were taking, and all of a sudden the stewardess came by and reached over and took some of that chidwa and popped it in her mouth and said, "Wow, this is amazing. What is this?" And so, you know, he was like amazing. She said, "Well, we're all vegetarians." She said, "What can I get you? Can I get you milk? I'll go to first class. I'll get you whatever." And Prabhupada commented that, yes, the nature of a woman is she loves to serve. So when he was giving this class, this brahmachari was in the temple room, and he said, "Well, I can add on to that story with a little Sankirtan story, if you like." And you remember 10 years later, he was just, you know, distributing books in remote villages in Brazil. And he knocked on this one door, and the woman opened the door. He had a dhoti on, and she went, "Oh my gosh, please come in." And she had pictures of Krishna everywhere. He said she even had deities. And he said, "How did you, way out here, how did you get all these pictures of Krishna? How did you come to this?" And she said, "Well, I was a stewardess on the plane, and I took some of this prasadam, which was Prabhupada's Maha Prasadam. And that's the most profound story ever about prasadam, about the potency of prasadam, isn't it, Sarva?
Beautiful. Wow.
Wow. So perhaps we can, you know, I don't know if they're taking prasadam out there. Let's go see. Let's walk out and see what's happening. We've got a whole crew here. Children there. Are we taking prasadam yet? So we have a Zoom program going on, Hare Krishna. And we thought that maybe some other people might like to share some Prasadam nectar stories. Rupa, would you like to be first? Would you like to be first? Yeah, the potency of Prasadam. Okay, Chaitanya Chandra.
He was bugging me to do this, so I know.
Okay. This is Chaitanya Chandra. I mentioned that.
I will sorry. This is why I couldn't make it because I had to come to Nandini's program.
No
Sorry.
problem.
He ran that restaurant for many years with his wife. So successful.
Yeah.
We had a
thank
lot
you.
of wonderful experiences there with Prasadam. But one in particular experience was I was living across the street. It was like mid 80s. Must have been like 87. And it was really cold out. It was like I had the flu or something. I had a down jacket and it was November and it was cold. So I went into the restaurant and walked out to the courtyard in the restaurant, and every single person at every table was laughing so hard. You know how when you laugh and you can't stop? That's what was going on at every table in the restaurant. My hairs were standing on and I was like, oh wow, Sunanda, man, he's got bhakti, you know. It's like, oh, Kalachandji Prasada is so powerful that somehow this laugh got going in the whole place, and it was an uproar. They were so intoxicated from eating the prasadam. I'll never forget that one. That was totally amazing. I have a lot of them, but anyway, that was one spectacular one with Sunanda cooking his amazing prasadam.
And then remember, he had Magic Lotus Catering.
Hmm.
He had Magic Lotus Catering, Sunanda, and we catered Annie Lennox and the Eurythmics, and
Annie Lennox came to
she came. I have a
the
picture
Peacock
with me.
room.
I have
Oh,
a
yeah?
picture with her,
Wow, I need to get one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, Annie Lennox came and we fed her prasadam there at the temple and the restaurant. And then we went to the concert.
Right.
Remember, what's his name? Bhakta Rupa came.
Yeah.
Bhakta Rupa's kind of like a square guy, but he came to the concert.
We were right.
We all came to the concert and we made samosas for all of her crew.
Yeah.
And she did this one song where she was dressed in total blue and she was playing a flute.
Yeah.
Because she married a devotee guy.
Right.
But he ended up burning her later on.
They left,
but
yeah.
she really at that time, she was really into Krishna consciousness, and it was a good concert. She was really good, but we gave out a lot of samosas and stuff.
It was beautiful.
And another time with Sunanda, there's a place that's nearby that is not the same name anymore. It's called the Pocket Sandwich Theater.
There, yeah.
And Sunanda arranged a gig there to where there was several of us with different instruments on the stage. And all it was a kirtan and samosas.
Mhm.
And we had these, Sunanda came up with this beautiful tune and we all came in with the instruments at certain times. And it was so beautiful. It was this tune. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare. And we're in every one of those lulls, another instrument come in. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. People were crying.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. It was so amazing. We were just absorbed in the kirtan. And I opened my eyes. I was looking at all these people crying and everything. And we stopped. We're like, no. Don't stop. Please don't stop. And they're all eating samosas. So they're all like, everybody was really purified from all the samosas.
So
One controversial prasadam thing I had. One more.
Spice it up.
It's controversial.
Go for it.
And we used to work the airport selling books in Dallas. And at one time, all the employees turned against us. And so they were trying to get us to stop.
right.
So Tamal Krishna Maharaj sent me out there. Well, what's his name? Pashupati's wife.
Oh, yeah.
His wife, her name was Chintamani, not Chintamani, but
I forget.
no, she had a really beautiful name. But anyway, she made these beautiful strawberry samosas.
Mhm.
We were like, we shouldn't even go in the airport with these. We should just eat them all because they were so, we got to taste them and they were like, oh my God. They're like, oh my God. They were like the most perfect samosas and they were huge. They weren't little, they were really big. So my job was to go around to all the employees that really were harassing us and meet them and talk to them and bring them down to us being humans because they hated us big time. So excuse all the new people, they didn't know all this kind of stuff going on, but too bad. This is history. So there was this one guy in Braniff Airlines, me and Radha Gopinath were working together, distributing books, and he would come up physically and break up our sales. And he was like 6'6", this huge guy. Yeah, in Braniff. So he was like the manager of the whole wing there. So he was driving by in his little cart and he would stop and jump and run over to us, right? So I was like, okay. So I stopped him, pulled him aside, and the guy was huge. So I gave him 2 of those samosas, right? So then he left slightly pacified that I was like a human being. And then a few minutes later, like maybe half hour, 15, 20 minutes later, something like that, I see him drive by in those carts, you know, where you're taking people, the golf cart things. And he looks at me, turns his head, and there's this huge smile on his face. Thank you so much for those. They were so great. This huge grin. I was like, there you go, Prasadam. So he became my friend from then on. He was like really cool. And, you know, he had those 2 samosas and that was it. Anyway. I'll
Rupa,
stop.
why don't you
Krishna
share?
Chaitanya's got one.
I was going to say, why don't you share a little El Paso story
Oh,
about? That's
Your
beautiful.
pancake, Prasada.
Uh-huh, please.
well, my nectar, I guess, with Prasadam was, I got to go to El Paso a couple months ago, a month and a half ago for Rath Yatra, and I got to cook with Nandini and Kartikeya and Nico and some of my friends for all the devotees that came for Rath Yatra, and it was yeah, it was not usually what I do for festivals, but it was, I just got so much nectar from doing it. It was the just the loving relationships amongst the devotees that were making the prasadam together in the kitchen, and then then all of the mercy from the Vaishnavas, and it was one of the best festivals I've ever been to in my life. It was wonderful. So yeah, the nectar of cooking prasadam for devotees with devotees was very inspiring for me. And Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu's got a story too.
I've got a story. I was a new bhakta, like very new, maybe 8 months in the temple. And it was like 1986 or 87, and all the GBC had come. And there were big fuss in the kitchen. Everybody was, getting ready. And somebody just told me, hey, all the sannyasis and GBCs are all sitting out here with empty plates. Go grab a bucket and bring it out and serve them. And I was like, okay, Haribo. So like in a hurry, I just went in the kitchen, I grabbed a bucket, I grabbed a spoon, and I ran out there. And then I looked around and I was wondering who I should serve first. And there was that bald guy with a little dot on his head. I was like, I know him. I'm going to serve him first. Tamal Krishna Goswami. So I go up to Tamal Krishna Goswami and I have my bucket and I have my little scooper and I have some halava. And I was about to put halava on his plate and he said, not halava. Halava's last.
The gourmet guru.
First nectar, then rice, then sabji, then dal, then pakora, then chapatis, then chutney, then halava. And because I was so new, I didn't know that there was like an order to the food. I just thought it was all transcendental, so it didn't matter. So, true story.
Yeah, halava first.
So my first meeting with Tamal Krishna Goswami, I got fully chastised. That was great.
Who else would
It's a
like?
type of nectar. It's a very hot.
Here.
Very hot and
Please.
sweet.
I can't think of anything.
Oh, well, you make these amazing dosas.
Yeah, I'll think of.
Hare Krishna, Sarvabhauma Prabhu, obeisances to you.
Hi, Bopu.
Are there others online?
Yes.
Obeisances, everybody. All glories to your honoring of Prasadam. There's a connection with book distribution. I heard, I wasn't there. I just heard this past time that a book distributor approached somebody and started talking about the book, just very short, briefly. They said, oh, the book talks about how to reduce stress, keep the mind peaceful. And he had the book in his hands. The person looked at the devotee and looked at the book and was like, cauliflower, deep fried, dipped in tomato sauce. And the book distributor realized, oh, they're putting two and two together. They're realizing that person must have had pakora prasadam, and they're seeing, and then so the book distributor was like, yep. And the person said, I'll take it. And just reached into his back pocket, pulled out his wallet, and gave a donation for the pakora prasadam book.
Wow. What an interesting connection.
Yeah, and
Here's
Jai.
Chaturanga.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Chakra.
Krishna.
Hare
Jai, my obeisances. Father Guru and anyone else out there. So this is approximately 1973. I was visiting the temple quite often. And then after a while, I just decided, well, I'll take a vacation from the temple for a while. So I was living outside, and one day I was walking downtown New York City, and I met a devotee. Those days, devotees were everywhere, it seemed. Wherever you go, you'd meet a devotee on the subway, on the 42nd Street Library, downtown, and Times Square anyway. So I met a devotee that I knew from the temple. I forgot his name, but he's from Detroit. He used to sell those peach wall paintings. I don't know if you know him. Anyway, so we talked for a little bit, and he said, oh, I have some prasadam for you. And he gave me this Maha sweet. I don't remember what it was, maybe a burfi or some Maha sweet. I said, oh, thank you very much. So we parted our ways, and I got on the subway, and I started eating that sweet. And it just totally transformed my consciousness. It was like all these devotional feelings just started welling up in me. It was like so powerful. And I said, okay, I'm going to start going to the temple again. That's it. Hare Krishna.
Why don't you share your experiences transporting Prasadam in El Paso, which was your total service, and introduce yourself.
Haribol, Hare Krishna. My name's Nico from El Paso. It's a pleasure to be connected with you all. I've been looking forward to go and have your association, and look forward to having that sometime in the near future. Prasadam, delivering prasadam to devotees in El Paso. This was for the Rath Yatra in El Paso as well. And yes, I did get the honor to take prasadam to feed all the devotees that were assisting us and giving us a great big support in El Paso to do the Rath Yatra, which we couldn't do it without. And actually, I do have a story. Wow. So I remember, so many times that I've been told that you have to have prasadam hot and serve it hot. And I was trying to get there, safely, of course, without endangering others. But I remember I would drive and I was just like, well, I'm doing this for Krishna, so I think things will be okay. But I need to get it there like in time. It's supposed to be there at a certain time.
It was like a 20-minute drive commute from where
yes,
to where we were serving.
It was from the west side to central. It was about 24 to 27 minutes, but this was during like traffic hour time on a weekday. And so I was trying to get there safe. And I remember just like as I was going, I started chanting, and then a green light would turn on. And I was like, oh, cool. And then another green light would turn on. I was like, oh, perfect, for Krishna. And then another green light would turn on. And I was just driving like, okay, this is perfect. And I was like, is that a stop sign? I passed the stop sign. I'm like, Hare Krishna. It's Krishna. It's Krishna's arrangement, no cars. So I'm driving, and I'm like, well, I'm doing this Krishna. I was looking at the time and I was like, oh, I didn't get chastised. And it was late and I was like, well, be okay. And I was like, is that another stop sign? So, Krishna's the ultimate arranger. He's driving.
And I'm just going, getting there safe, of course, looking out for other people's safety too. And then it was like a green light was turning yellow, but I saw ahead that if I stopped, I was gonna get all this traffic where I was at, and the airport was there. And I was going, and I was just like, I was chanting, and I was like, should I go? I was looking at the cars, and I was just like, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And then like, well, I'm going too fast to slow down. That'd be dangerous. And then like, I was already crossing the red light. And I remember thinking, I was like, well, I'm like, Krishna's the ultimate arranger, So I'm an instrument, Krishna's doing this. And I remember thinking, well, I'm doing this for Krishna, so it should be all right. And then I was trying to tell a devotee this, just to get his insight. And I'm like hearing myself say this, and I was like, no, that was my free will, huh? And I was like, Krishna didn't do that. Like, that's my free will. And I was like, no. And I was like, but I was doing it for Krishna, and his devotees. And so the prasadam did get there hot, and everything was safely. And I just remember that it was important to get the devotees their prasadam.
And I just would like to add that Nico, I don't know how many trips he made, 10, 20 trips back and forth. He was so dedicated to make sure that everyone would get this prasadam. He melted my heart. He was such a servant, really. And so anyone else would like to share? Rupa?
I think the class is 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
So is it time for your class to end? Are we going over time?
No, there's no limit, but
Okay,
No.
I'll make this story quick. This was actually, it's not a firsthand story. Dina Bunderpool told us this story when he was in Dallas, I don't know, 10 years ago. They were in California. I don't remember. They were going to visit a prison. And I don't remember who he was with in the car. I know he was there. And they're on their way to the prison, and kind of like Chaitanya Chandrapur, they had this amazing halava, and I think it was Simply Wonderfuls. And Chandrapur told them to taste the prasadam to make sure everything was okay. So they taste some, and it's like amazing, and they're like, wow, that was really good. I think we should try a little bit more. So they're driving. It's a long drive to the prison. So they're driving, and this keeps happening again and again. I think we need to try a little bit more of that, so they keep eating. So then finally I think we should try a little bit more. And the devotee goes, and it's empty. They ate all of the prasadam that was meant to distribute at the prison. So they get to the prison, and they're kind of feeling like, oh man, like that was like we went overboard. And they get to the prison, and then they pull up to the gate, the entrance, and the guards ask them, all the stuff that you can't do. You're going to a prison, you got to follow all these rules. And one of them was, you don't have any food with you, do you? Because we won't let you in if you have any food with you. So they ate all the prasadam. Got to go preach because they'd eaten the prasadam, otherwise they wouldn't have got into the prison. So, there you go.
So but we're gonna walk, my husband and I are just gonna walk you back here for one moment. It's the children's room, but just in closing, we want to share this because let's see if I can. Okay, here's all the children playing back here. But Sarva, can you see these pictures up here?
yes, beautiful.
So for Gurudev's Vyasa Puja this year, I printed all these prasadam pictures because the whole theme of the festival was prasadam.
Wow.
And you can see Gurudev taking prasadam with Prabhupada on the way to Mayapur. And here's another wonderful. So I guess,
Amazing.
yes, so beautiful. So in closing, remember when we used to do all of those, he had all of his professors from the SMU, we do a Christmas thing, and everyone would make their specialty.
Yeah, come here. I was going to show the picture.
I've seen.
No, the picture of in Kalachanchi. But that's okay. Okay, well, Sarva, I'm gonna let Nandini finish the interview with you.
Okay,
And, it was so nice talking to you, so nice seeing you. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namah. All glories to your service. Hare
All
Krishna.
glories. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
I would like to just thank you for all the service you've done, and it's very inspiring to see the way the Dallas devotees have cooperated, like at El Paso and
Oh my gosh, so wonderful.
the Sadhu Sangha retreats in the East Coast, where the Dallas devotees basically set up the kitchen.
Yes.
It's a wonderful,
For
wonderful
thousands.
service, and I wanted to convey that to the other devotees there.
I will, Sarva, without a doubt. Yes,
Mm.
we are, by Gurudev's mercy, the whole yatra here is a focus on prasadam distribution, no doubt.
But I'd like to let anyone that's on the Zoom maybe comment or ask you a quick question if anybody has any comments before we leave.
Okay.
I just want to say how beautiful it is to see the community there. And I mean, so much love. We felt all of your love and your emotions, and just, it was just so beautiful to see. How do you keep such an amazing community connection amongst everybody? It's just, it seems, and I'm sure it seems so strong, and you don't see that everywhere. So
With
beautiful.
a chest like this.
It is very strong. We have been doing these programs in our home, and we rotate now between 3 different homes on a Friday night. And we have done this for a year and a half, all through COVID. No one wore any masks. No one got sick. I don't know if it's the potency of prasadam or the chanting, but what has happened with this, when the temples were locked down, we started these programs here, and it has become such a deeply personal, intimate relationships we've all developed. And we've even done some Airbnb retreats on lakes, all of us together, and with prasadam distribution and kids doing dramas and plays. Actually, I was in one of those plays that we did. So it's, it's really a blessing for us here. We are humbled and blessed. And I think all of this is, it's all Srila Gurudev's mercy, really. Gurudev's mercy. He wanted me to show you one quick thing in closing. Let's see if I can turn the light. So this was a picture that Srila Gurudev orchestrated himself of Kartikeya and I in the courtyard. They used this promotion for probably 15 years in the magazines everywhere. And Srila Gurudev orchestrated this. We're clicking together in our younger years, that is Martinelli, sparkling Martinelli. And you can see the beautiful plates of Sunanda with the flowers and everything he would do. So,
Beautiful.
Hare Krishna, Sarva, all glories to your service. So I'm gonna go because I have to distribute prasadam to all my guests right now.
Okay, we'll let you go. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay.